And yeah, we'll just let ourselves arrive. So it could be with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. It could be with your legs long. And just take a moment to settle, to let the weight of your body settle down. You could do a little bit of letting your head roll very lazily to the right and to the left. And just noticing how your neck feels, letting the back of your shoulders settle on the floor. And finding a comfortable place to settle the center of the back of your head down. And then if your legs are long, you're going to organize yourself so your knees are bent and your feet are standing on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, to feel the back of your pelvis on the floor. Hi Rachel, we've just started, we're lying on our backs. So I think it was only last week, wasn't it? We had the terrible shock of starting standing up. So we're back to lying down this week. So lying on your back, knees bent, feet standing on the floor, starting to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So this familiar movement that we can use to help us feel ourselves. So feel, how do we feel into the hip joints? How does your body feel around the back of your pelvis, into your lower back? Does this movement feel smooth and easy, or does it feel not so smooth, not so easy? So a couple more times, 2, 3 more times, letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then you're going to settle in the center. You're going to keep your left knee bent, you're going to keep your left foot standing on the floor, and you're going to lengthen out your right leg. Make sure your shoulders are resting back onto the ground, your arms, I think arms resting down by your sides. And we're going to come into that movement where we press into the left foot. We let the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor. We let the pelvis tilt over towards the right. So I just thought for a change, it's probably I'm more likely to say start with the right side. So I thought we should start with the left side for a change. So see, how does it feel? As you exhale, you can be coordinating the movement with your breathing. So as you exhale, you press down into your left foot. You feel your pelvis tilt towards the right. And just keep repeating this movement a few more times. Keeping it easy, keeping it comfortable. Making sure your knee is moving forwards over your footprint. So your left knee is moving forwards rather than over to the right. And I can see some of your knees and not others. Very nice knees. Actually, I can see most knees. Lovely. Then maybe just one more time, pressing down into that left foot, letting the left side of the pelvis come away from the floor. And then when your pelvis comes back onto the floor, you're going to fold that left knee in towards your chest. That's it. So leave the right leg long on the ground. And yes, first of all, you can hold around the top of your knee just for a couple of breaths. So we've got this feeling of folding, this sort of deep fold in the front of the left hip joint. And the front of the right hip joint is open, and that right leg is long and heavy on the floor. And then from there, what you could try is then wrapping your arms around the back of your left thigh and seeing how that feels. And when your arms are wrapped around the back of your left thigh, you could then experiment with bringing the sole of your left foot more up towards the ceiling, keeping the right knee bent. You could use a hand to help you. So maybe keep one arm around the back of your thigh and use the other hand to help bring the sole of your foot towards the ceiling. So your knee stays bent. You could catch your shin, your ankle, your big toe, whatever is easy. And just try that movement a few times. So it's a bit like we're doing, I often say this, it's a bit like you're doing a lunge on your back. So you're trying to keep your thigh close to your chest. That's it. So some of you, I can't see what your thigh is doing. So I'm hoping at this point your knee is bent still and your thigh is close to your chest. And one arm might be around the back. Yes, you don't have to have one arm around the back. You could be catching onto your leg or your foot with both hands. Good. And you can alternate a little bit. So what you can also then do is lengthen out that leg and hold around the back of your thigh with both hands. Lengthen it up towards the ceiling. That's it. And hold around the back of your leg with both hands. And then you can bend the knee again. So maybe play around with that a few times. Bending the knee and then lengthening the leg towards the ceiling. And when you're bending your knee, see how it feels to keep orientating the sole of your foot towards the ceiling. So sometimes we can get a little bit active in the front of the hip joint, so we're sort of in the hip flexors. So we're trying to keep as quiet there as possible, which is why you want to use your hands to catch your foot. And then the other thing you can have a play around with is, what's it like to take that left leg a little bit out to the side? So this either could be with your leg, yeah, it depends. Your knee can be as bent or as unbent as you like. So one option is to hold on to the outside of your foot or your ankle with your left hand and think about bringing your left knee down towards the floor near to your armpit. So that knee is not going to touch the floor. So if you think about it, it's a little bit like doing that lunge where we bring our hands onto the inside of our foot. Yeah. But you could also, like some of you were doing, yes, sort of take your leg out to the side and have the leg a bit longer and just be somehow supporting your leg or your ankle or your shin with your hand. Good. And just notice all the time what's happening with the other side of your body, the right side of your body. So if you're bringing your leg more out to the left, can you keep heavy and quiet through the right side of your body? And this is very experimental, so there's not really a right or wrong here as long as it doesn't hurt you. Good. And then it might be quite nice just to lengthen that leg out on the floor. So you've got two long legs for a moment. You could just lie quietly with two long legs, or you could give them a little roll or a little bounce. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then from here, you're going to bend your right knee and stand your right foot on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of that right footprint on the floor. And then you're starting that pressing movement. So pressing into your right foot, letting your pelvis tilt over towards the left. So as you press into your right foot, your pelvis lifts on the right side, but it doesn't lift on the left. Instead, you roll towards the outer edge of that foot. Yes, so it's fine. If you've got your hands resting on the front of your body, that's fine. But make sure they're not weighing you down. What can be quite nice in here is to have, let's see, it would be to have your right arm on the floor and to bring your left hand across your body and encourage the ribs on the right side to come up a bit. So as your pelvis comes off the floor, your left hand can encourage those right ribs to also sort of come along with your pelvis. So that can feel quite nice. And so perhaps a couple more times on this side, pressing into your foot. Letting the pelvis lift. On the right side. Using your left hand, if you like, to encourage those right ribs to come along with the movement of the pelvis. And then the next time your pelvis comes back onto the floor, you're going to fold that knee in towards your chest. And have a few breaths, just holding around the top of your right knee. Feeling how it is on this side to fold in the front of the right hip joint and to be long and open through the front of the left hip joint. And then from here, you can move on to wrapping your arms around the back of your thigh. And again, just see, can the weight of your arms help your thigh to snuggle a bit closer into your chest? And then, of course, yes, you can go on to playing with, starting to bring the sole of the foot more towards the ceiling. Maybe using one hand to help you, catching your shin, catching your ankle, catching your foot or your big toe. Or you could use both hands to help you. And you can come in and out of this. So keep your knee bent. Just see what's possible. What's possible with keeping the knee bent and the thigh close to your chest in terms of lengthening out the lower leg a bit. And then you can let the knee straighten and you can let the whole leg lengthen up towards the ceiling. Hold your hands around the back of your thigh. So this can be a bit challenging for hamstrings. It can also be quite nice. Yes, you can always circle your ankle a little bit if you like. And you can alternate between bending the knee, bringing the thigh back to the chest, catching your foot or your ankle, and then lengthening your leg out, holding around the back of your thigh, letting the leg be long. And particularly when you lengthen out the leg, see if you can feel the leg resting down into the hip socket, because that will help all the muscles around the hip joint relax a little bit. And then like you did on the other side, whenever you're ready and you want to explore taking your leg, your right leg out towards the side. And you can do this with your knee bent or with your knee straighter. And I would probably, yes, I would probably think that you want to be holding onto your leg with your right hand. It's probably keeping your left arm on the floor is going to help you stay settled through the left side of your body. So you can take the leg out to the side being straightish, or you can keep the knee quite bent and think about taking the knee down towards the floor. Sort of that's it, near your armpit. A bit like being in the lunge on your back again, the lunge where we bring our body onto the inside of our front leg. Lovely. So just a little bit more of a play around with that. Seeing what's possible, seeing what feels good. And then whenever you've had enough, you can lengthen that leg out on the floor too. And just see how it feels to lie long. You could let both legs be long and heavy. You could roll your legs. You could bounce your knees if you like. And feel a breath come in, feel a breath leave you. And then from here, you're going to bend both knees and stand your feet on the floor, but take your feet wide, so they're as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. That's it, very nice. Good. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left, but with your feet, that's it, with your knees, feet wide. Good, and see how this feels. That's nice. If it feels that your feet are too wide, you don't have to have them as wide as this. But this movement, when we have the feet a bit wider, it tends to move us a bit more into the hip joints. And it's entirely up to you, but if you want to, if it feels okay, you could let your knees rock all the way over to one side and have a few breaths. So, and it might be that you've got a cushion to hand if you might want to put it under one of your knees. But see how it feels. Rock the knees over to one side. Have a few breaths. Let your head roll in the opposite direction to your knees. And see how that feels. And then you might come back to a little bit more rocking. And then bring your knees down to the other side and have a few breaths. And again, letting your head roll in the opposite direction to your knees. Not necessarily when you're going from side to side, but when you're staying there. Let the head roll the opposite way to the legs. Try and give the weight of the legs down to the floor. If it's not comfortable, don't stay there. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then in your own time, coming back to the center, folding both knees into your chest. Hold around the top of your knees with your hands. And do a little bit of what feels nice here, maybe a little bit of rocking, a little bit of circling around the back of your pelvis. That can feel very nice. There's a lot of nerve endings here. So it means that we can get, we can have all aches and pains and creaks here, but also that it feels nice when we do a little bit of circling. That's it. So a little bit more rocking, a little bit more circling, and then you can take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. And your arms if you like. And the other thing, if you didn't do it earlier, might be a little bit of circling into your ankles. It's really nice. Good. Fabulous. Got this amazing view of all these feet. It's really good. Really lovely. So whenever you've had enough with your legs up in the air, you can fold your knees back into your chest. And from here, roll onto one side and just have a few breaths on your side. We're going to come over onto hands and knees in a moment. Have a few breaths on your side first. While you're on your side, you can contemplate the prospect of coming over onto hands and knees, but give yourself time. So we're going to be in a moment coming to hands and knees and on into some cat movements. So settling, hands under your shoulders, and yeah, we'll see how our cat movements feel today. So we've worked so far more with our limbs really than with our spine on our back. So let's see how it feels to start to tune into the movements of our spine. So rounding the back to the ceiling, dipping the spine down to the floor. And make sure you keep these movements comfortable. So depending how your back feels, don't go too far if that starts to aggravate anything. Or it might be that the movements are very helpful in starting to release tension. What I'd like you to do is then start to coordinate moving with breathing. So I don't mind how you do it, but one movement, you're going to exhale. So you can be exhaling, rounding your back to the ceiling. And then as you dip your spine down to the floor, you could be breathing in. Or you could do the opposite. You could be breathing in as you round your back to the ceiling. And you could be exhaling as you dip your spine down to the floor. And you might want to explore both possibilities. So just for a few more cycles of cat, moving with your breath. How does that feel? So it probably slows down the movement a little bit if we coordinate it with the breathing. Rounding up as we breathe in or out, dipping down as we breathe in or out. And in a moment, we're going to slow it down even further and we're going to stay. So you're going to stay in your rounded up cat for a cycle or even two of breath. So round your back to the ceiling, let your head hang, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And again, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then dip your spine down to the floor and feel a couple of cycles of breath here. So feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And maybe one last time, rounding your back to the ceiling, have a cycle of breath there. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then carry on rounding all the way back into child pose, just for a breath or two in child pose. Just to take the weight off your hands for a moment. So round your back to the ceiling, that's it, rock your hips back over your heels into child pose. Just give your hands and your wrists a little chance to ease out. And then when you're ready, you're going to come back onto hands and knees. And we're going to move on into dog pose. So that's it, not too particularly long in child pose, back onto hands and knees, big handprints on the floor. You can have your hands quite wide apart if your shoulders are, particularly if your shoulders are feeling tight. Tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back, picking your knees up off the floor, seeing how dog pose feels, or how this first dog pose feels. Some big exhalations, bending the knees. So usually when we go into dog pose, first of all, there'd be the back of the legs, might be shouting a little bit. How do the shoulders feel? Can we let the head go? Bending one knee, bending the other knee. Just having a few more breaths in dog pose, if that feels okay. Try and feel wide across the back of the shoulders. I know that's probably hard in the first dog. Yes, very nice. Good. And when you come down from this dog pose, we're going to, from hands and knees, step 1 foot forwards in between our hands. So we're going to come into lunge. And we're going to do a bit of easing forwards and back in lunge. So for me, it's best to have my back foot flat if I'm going to ease forwards and back. So we can be in lunge, we can even be up on our fingertips a little bit. And then keeping the chest close to the thigh, we can rock back. So we come onto the heel of the front foot, we look back. We let our back round, we look back towards the back foot. And then we can come forwards again, back into lunge. We can maybe come up onto our fingertips, our gaze comes forwards, and then we can rock back again, keeping the chest close to the thigh. So this front leg won't lengthen out completely if our chest stays close to our thigh. Looking back towards our back foot. So a couple more times going between these two movements. Coming into lunge, having a couple of breaths here, then easing backwards, looking back. We feel the stretch through the front of the back leg when we come back. And then when we come back into lunge, we've got that opening through the front of the back leg hip joints. Let's do it one more time, forwards and back on this side, and then we'll swap sides. So easing back, looking back, and then rocking forwards, back into lunge, up onto your fingertips. If you wanted to tuck your back toe under here, you could do. If you wanted to, I was going to say come onto hands and knees to swap sides, but you could go through dog pose if you want to. So I'll leave that up to you. If you feel like doing a dog pose now, you could plant your hands and come into dog. Otherwise, on hands and knees, bringing the other foot forwards. So if you do go into dog, then you can step the other foot forwards into lunge, if you like. So when you arrive on side 2 of lunge, the same thing, have your toes flat in your back foot, a little bit of easing in and out. So rocking back, chest stays close to your thigh, looking back, bringing your weight forwards into your front foot. As long as your heel stays on the floor, you can let your front knee come forwards over your foot a bit. This depends really whether you know how easy squatting is or not. If squatting's tricky, your front knee won't be able to come that far forwards with your heel staying down. Rocking back, coming forwards again, up onto the fingertips if you like, looking forwards, dropping the shoulders. Rocking back again, looking back. So perhaps one more time into lunge, one more time rocking back. And then we will come into dog pose. So you could ease back again. You could try one more lunge. You might like to, in this last lunge again, tuck your toes under. So be in lunge with your toes tucked under. Another breath or two. And so it's up to you. You can go straight from lunge into dog, planting your hands down, tucking your back toe under, or you can go from hands and knees on into dog pose. And enjoy your dog pose. So second or third dog pose, seeing how that feels. Good. So if you're not in dog yet, moving into dog, having a bit of a lengthen out in dog pose. Good. That looks nice. Good, Maria. The shoulders look nice this time. Lovely. Yeah, dogs are looking really nice. Now, from dog pose, we're going to come sit down in kneeling. If that's tricky for some of you, you might need, just Alice, if you've got your little meditation stool, very nice. I have, yes, I have Cam making these various little tables and meditation stools for the time when I'll be allowed to have people back here for yoga again. So you could, if kneeling is tricky and you haven't got a nice meditation stool like Alice, you could be up here. But what I want us to do is a twist. So if possible, it would be better to sit down. You might want a cushion in between your heels and your bottom or under your feet. And what we're going to do here is this kneeling twist. So we're turning one way. Trying to let the shoulders drop. The front hand comes to rest on the front. The opposite thigh, sorry. Your fingertips on the floor behind you or on the back of your pelvis. And then turning back to the center and turning the other way. We're going to go each way a couple of times. So seeing how it feels to turn the other way. A couple of breaths. And again, remember, we're going to go each way again. So again, if it's a bit much, you can always come up. You can always do your twist upright like this, like we did last week for some of the camel things. Good. So turning the other way. And then one last time, turning to the second side again, having a few breaths here. And then we're going to come onto hands and knees, and we're going to be nice after kneeling. We're going to lengthen one leg out behind us, and we're going to be doing, so you need to settle through your hands because we're going to come into this fox movement where we're lengthening through the opposite arm and leg. So quite nice to really stretch into the heel and maybe point the toes as well after being in kneeling. And have a couple of breaths on your first side, just feeling long in your fox movement. So it's a little bit of a balance. We have this intention to be steady. You can come back down. You can move on to the second side. So really reaching back with your heel or your toes, forwards with your fingertips, feeling long. And then come back down, just sit back for a moment, give your hands a little shake out because I've got a variation. So I'm getting very hot, let's take that off. So Ruth, you might be right about the humidity, I think. We're going to do a little variation of this. So just watch me for a moment. So one thing, yes, if I do this side, one thing would be taking your knee out to the side a bit. The other thing would be, yes, can you touch your foot? Yeah, so could you touch your foot over your back with your hand? So one would be that sort of taking the knee out to the side with the other arm forwards. And the other one is, can you touch your foot? Yes, can you touch your foot over your back? So I'll just come and have a little look. So, and don't do anything, I was going to say, don't do anything silly. I've spent far too long with children today. So yes, that's it. So it's just interesting. So if you're, yeah, the touching the foot one is interesting. You can reach forwards and back and alternate both of them with coming back to being long. So how is it to lengthen out the arm and leg and then maybe try and touch the foot? Or what's it like to bring the knee out to the side? You can even bring the arm out to the side if you wanted. And then come back to the arm and leg being long. And obviously swap sides as well. But yes, good. If anyone's doing the same arm and leg, then you're going to be, yes, challenged to, we do sometimes do that, but we're doing opposite arm and leg. Just in case, that's it, just in case we got confused. It's quite nice for the shoulder when we catch the foot. Quite a good stretch there. Good, very nice. Beautiful. So just balancing yourselves out. So you've done that on both sides. And then if you need to sit back for a moment and give your hands a shake out. So we're going to be coming through another dog pose. And then a forward bend into standing. If you like in this dog pose, you could do your one-legged dog poses. So I'll leave that entirely up to you if you feel like that. Having done your one leg in fox, it might be quite nice. So when you've given your hands a shake out, come back onto hands and knees, nice big handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back, picking your knees up off the floor. And before you rush into doing a one-legged dog, maybe just let yourself settle in the normal dog first of all and see how it feels. Can you let the shoulders soften? Can you rest down through the bones of your arms? And then you could explore, if you like, what's it like to take one leg off the ground. You could keep your pelvis level, you could let your pelvis roll, you could reach back into your heel. You could even bend that top leg and drop the foot down behind you, not all the way down behind you. So yeah, if you're doing your one-leg dogs, obviously do it on both sides. See how it feels. And as I always say, these are not things to stay in. They're just, you know, a movement to explore. How does it feel? Bringing that foot back to the floor and walking your hands on into your forward bend. Letting your head go, letting your arms go, feeling all of the weight in your footprints. Heavy head, shoulders giving their weight down to the ground. Letting a breath come in, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Good. So let's arrive in standing on our mats. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do is a bit of swinging our arms. So this sort of loose, easy, swinging twist. Good. Very nice. Slapping your hands onto your body, just letting the whole body come along, letting the feet move. Yes, if you suddenly realise you need a bit more space, get the most of the space at home. Good. A couple more times. And then let all of that go. Have a look at your feet, settle yourself down in standing with your feet hip width apart and parallel. Maybe close your eyes for a moment. Can you let your arms hang? Do you maybe sway a little bit so let your weight rock to the right leg and to the left? And then open your eyes. We'll keep this rocking from side to side, but we'll bring the arms up. So as your weight rocks into your left foot, you reach into your left arm. As your weight rocks into your right foot, you reach into your right arm. So a little bit of reaching as you rock your weight from side to side. That's it. So you're reaching up with the same arm that you're rocking your weight onto that side. So just a couple more times. Reaching up, reaching up. And then from here, we're going to sweep all the way down into a forward bend. If your lower back's feeling a little bit challenged, you can bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs. So if your lower back feels a bit vulnerable in a forward bend, then always that option is really good. Elbows resting on the thighs. If your lower back feels fine, then you can release all the way down into a forward bend. Let your arms hang. Let your head hang. Giving the weight of your upper body to the floor. Have another breath or so here. Let a breath come in. Let a breath leave you. And as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. We're going to do some of these sort of working towards the standing back arch, because I think these movements are very helpful if you've been working from home on a computer, if you're just feeling a bit fed up. So start off with your hands on, and we've got a bit of a focus with hands on the pelvis, but we'll come to that more in a moment. So hands on the front of your pelvis. You're letting your weight rock towards the front of your feet, and you're letting your gaze come up. And just try that a couple of times. So the weight rocks forwards, your pelvis comes forwards, and you look up. And you might feel that it's helpful to bend your knees a little bit. I don't know, that's an option. So pelvis rocking forwards, weight rocking into the fronts of the feet, looking up. Okay, roll back down into a forward bend. So it's really important with these that it's, you know, we might feel that it's a strain on the lower back. So whenever we need to come forwards, we come forwards into a forward bend. We let ourselves roll forwards. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, roll back up again. Good. And then this time we're going to explore the same movement, one-armed. So we've got one hand on the belly, one arm is coming up. So we're trying to still feel that the pelvis moves forwards. We're bringing our gaze up. We've also got this arm by the side of our head. If your neck feels a bit vulnerable, you can always have your hand around the back of your head. I know some people like that. And try swapping arms. A hand around the back of the head if you prefer. And again, if you prefer, bending your knees to help you drop your tailbone to lengthen out the lower back. And then again, all the way down into your forward bend. And something I didn't say is that my feet, you know, in this one, it's quite good to have the feet quite wide apart. So roll into your forward bend, and we'll do a couple more. But yes, my feet were a bit wider than hip width apart to just help me feel steady. So again, in your forward bend, be nice and heavy and floppy. And then again, as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. And one last time, we can try this movement with both arms up. So again, it's trying to let the pelvis, we haven't got a hand on the pelvis to remind the pelvis to come forwards. What's it like to look up? Bringing the arms back. We have to let the pelvis come forwards as a sort of counterbalance. And again, it might be that you want to bend your knees to help your pelvis come forward. You can try it a couple more times, and then this will be the end of it if you hate these, and we're going into a forward bend and a squat. So whenever you think, yes, I've had more than enough of that, we're going to come down into another forward bend. And if you need something under your heels for a squat, it would be good to have it, because we'll go on from our forward bend, down, bending the knees forwards over the feet, into a squat. And it's fine if your heels come up, that's absolutely fine. But if your lower back really benefits from being in a squat, that's when it's good to have something under your heels. It could be a cushion, you could roll up the back of your mat, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Some of you might find in your squats you can let your knees come a bit wider apart so that your rib cage comes down in between your thighs. And we'll go back up into a forward bend, because we're actually going to do a different sort of squat this evening. So from your squat, you might need to let your heels come up, and do remove whatever is under your heels for the moment, move it out of the way. And then start to send your heels down. And in fact, actually roll all the way up into standing. So come into a forward bend and roll all the way up into standing. And just watch me for a moment, because what you're going to do this time, you're going to come into a forward bend, and then you're going to turn your feet out, yeah? And then you're going to come into a squat with your knees going out over your feet like this, which you may find easier. This is all about sort of moving into the hip joints. So come into a forward bend again. So come into a forward bend with your feet hip width apart and parallel. And then once you're in your forward bend, you're going to turn your toes out. So I feel like you're sort of in a sort of ballet, second position, isn't it? That's it. And then just see, is it easier with your toes turned out to come down into a squat? And we'll just stay there. Again, it might be that your heels come up, and that's fine. Might be that your heels can stay down. You can, in this one, sort of bring your hands into prayer pose, so if your elbows on the inside of your thighs. knees rather. So this one is about, it's a different sort of squat. It's about moving us into our hip joints, externally rotating the hip joints. Let's come out of this one. So seeing if you can bring yourself back into the forward bend, and once you're in your forward bend, you will bring your feet parallel again. So back into your forward bend and then bring your feet back so they're parallel. And then rolling up into standing. And just when you get up into standing, have a bit of a shake out. So we're going to be doing a few standing balances with a particular focus today. And this is something I been practicing this week and have found very helpful, which is we're going to be bringing our awareness to our belly. So what I'd like you to do to start with is settle your feet down. We're not standing on one foot just yet. Settle your feet down, hip width apart and parallel, and bring your hands onto your belly. So quite low on your belly, beneath your belly button. So I think sometimes this is called the hara, the sort of center of ourselves. And we're going to bring our awareness to this part of our body. And as we're doing this, you could do a little bit of rocking your weight over one foot, over the other foot. And just really gathering your attention into your low belly. Into the whole of the belly, really. So when we come into some different standing balances, we're going to have our awareness focused in our belly, which perhaps is not what we normally do. One thing I'd like us to try before, and I'm not going to do lots of detail on this, but Kapalabhati breathing. If you know Kapalabhati breathing, so I need a tissue now. So it's a short little out breath and your belly moves back. You could try that in standing, and don't worry if you don't know it. We'll cover that another time. The most important thing is this awareness in our awareness in our belly. So from here, we're going to come on into tree pose. So I'd like you to choose which foot you're going to stand on. And keep your hands on your belly for the time being. And just start to, and you can have your foot however you like in tree pose. So it could be on your ankle, could be a little bit higher up, it could be on your thigh. But we're going to start with a couple of breaths with the hands on the belly in tree pose. And then even as we take the hands off the belly, so we bring the hands into prayer pose, we want to keep awareness in the belly. So the main focus of our awareness is in the center of ourselves. We can let the arms come up. Let the shoulders drop. We can feel alive into the fingertips, but we still have this sense of the center of ourselves. That's where our awareness is gathered into. The belly, the hara. Good. You bring your hands back into prayer pose, back down to your breastbone. Bring your hands back onto your belly. And come down and have a little bit of a shake out. So it's just a little bit of an experiment today to see how it feels in our balances to have our awareness perhaps in a different part of our body. So again, once you've given your hands and arms and legs a little shake out, you can bring your hands back onto your belly, or one hand. You may need the other hand to help you bring your leg up in tree pose, wherever you want to have that foot. And once you've organised yourself below the waist, then have a few breaths with your hands on your low belly. And see if you can gather your awareness into the belly, into the center, this center of ourselves. From here, we can bring the hands to prayer pose at our breastbone. Just have that awareness of the belly. And from here we can bring our arms up if we like. And the shoulders drop, feeling soft into the centre of the palms. But keep sensing the belly. Keep coming back to that sense of the belly as our centre. Hands can come back into prayer pose. Hands can come back onto the belly. And in your own time, come down. Have a little bit of a shake out. Shake out arms and legs. And then we're going to come on into this, I'll talk you into it in a moment, in this balance where we catch the top of our foot, stalk I call it. And again, so you're gonna come back to your first standing foot, and you're going to bring that hand onto your belly. So our starting point is our hand on our belly. We'll then bring our hand to our breastbone. We'll then try taking the arm up. So again, start with your hand on your low belly. And when you're ready, start to shift your weight over onto your first side. And then catching the top of your foot or catching your trouser leg, whatever is most helpful here. And letting your knee drop down towards the floor. Just seeing if you can settle here with this sense of awareness of the belly. For a breath or two. And then you still keep your awareness at the belly, but also you bring your hand up to your breastbone. Have a breath or two there. You can take your arm up towards the ceiling. So at the same time we're aware of the fingertips reaching up, but we also have that awareness of the belly at the centre of ourselves. Feel the breath flowing in, the breath leaving us. Again, you can bring your hand back to your breastbone. You can bring your hand back to your belly. And of course it goes, so it goes without saying to come down when you're ready. It goes without saying you can come down whenever you like. I think all of us, you know, when we're balancing, we have this intention. We have this intention to balance, and that's the most important thing, the intention. Whether the reality quite lives up to it, that doesn't matter. So back down, other hand on the belly now. Starting to shift your weight over onto the other leg. So come onto the ball of the foot you just stood on, picking that foot up, catching the top of the foot or your trouser leg. Whatever works for you on this side. And having a few quiet breaths here with your hand on your belly, letting your knee drop towards the floor. Your hand can come up onto your breastbone. See how that feels. This is a good place for steadying ourselves. And then the arm can grow up. Again, keep feeling the flow of the breath through your body. Keep coming back to that sense of the belly at our centre. Let the hand come back down to the breastbone. And back down to the belly. And then come down and have a little shake out. So I'm sort of deliberately today not focusing on the feet, because that's what we focus on so much usually in standing balances, and just to see how that feels. So we're going to come into a forward bend, and then we've got one more standing balance we're going to do. So feet hip width apart and parallel. Let a breath come in as you exhale, rolling forwards. You could, from this forward bend, if it would be nice for your lower back, you could go all the way down into a squat if you like. So that's completely up to you. Yeah, if you want to come into a squat, yes. If you want something under your heels, then do so. It's completely someone in my Wednesday class said, I've been doing lots of walks out in the country, and it's really good from all this squatting. I can go for a wee now outdoors. I thought, okay, that's great. So that's just what we want to be able to do from practicing squatting. My children always called them outdoor wees when they were little. So from here, from our squat, we can go back into our forward bend. Let the head go, let the arms go. Let a breath come in, rolling back up into standing. Have a little shake out of arms and legs again. So we're going to come into one more balance. This time our starting position is going to be with one foot stepped forward. So actually I'll turn around, because if you can remember whichever foot you stood on first for your balance, you want to have that as your front foot. So we're in this position. We start with our feet side by side. We then step one foot forwards, and we're going to be standing on the forwards foot. So we've still got our hip width distance, and you're going to bend your front knee, but your back leg is straight. And here, you're going to bring your hands back onto your belly again. And again, I want to see if we can do some Kapalabhati breaths here. So our little, so that short, sharp out breath that comes out through the nose and our belly moves back. You could equally do it through your mouth. So like you're blowing out a candle. So we're just trying to feel very rooted here. Again, the sense of the pelvis. And then from here, bring your hands into prayer pose at your breastbone. So I've got my thumbs resting on my breastbone here. My front knee's bent. And what we're going to do, you could watch me for a moment if you like, is from here, we're going to come forwards onto the front leg, both knees bent. And then we're going to start to lengthen out the back leg, straighten the standing leg. Do this one. Yeah. So from this place where your front knee's bent, bring your weight onto your front leg. Both knees are bent like a sort of cartoon runner. And then you start to reach backwards with your heel and let the standing leg straighten. Let yourself tip forwards. Seeing how that feels. Good. Very nice. Beautiful. Lovely. Lovely. Really reach back into that back heel. Wonderful. Wonderful. Good. Come up and have a little shake out, and we'll do the other side. So back 2 feet side by side, hip width apart, and then step the other foot forwards. And organise yourself here so your front knee is bent, but your back leg is straight and quite strong. So you're sinking into your back heel. You've got that bent front leg. We've got our hands on our belly. We're feeling the belly at the centre of ourselves. We're going to do those little Kapalabhati breaths, either through the nose or the mouth. Or feel the belly moving back. And then from here, we can bring the hands into prayer pose at the breastbone. We're going to bring our weight into that front leg with the bent knee. Bring the back leg off the ground, both knees are bent. Then start to reach back into your back heel. Let that back leg straighten. Let the standing leg straighten, but not lock. Let yourself tip forwards a little bit. Long from your back heel to the crown of your head. Breathing. Very nice. Good. Wonderful. Really lovely. Come down when you've had enough. It's probably already a little shake out. We've a little visit from Casper the cat now. What he wants. That's all right. And then one last time, we're going to go through a forward bend and a squat. So you could choose, if you liked doing the feet apart squat, you could do that, feet wider, toes wider apart squat. But whatever you're going to do, you're going to come into a forward bend, start off with your feet hip width apart and parallel. If at that point you'd like to take your toes out to the sides a bit to help you down into your squat, you could do. And again, in the squat, if you want something under your heels, do put it there. If your heels come up, that's fine. It's quite nice to, if you're in the feet wide apart squat, you're folding down in between your legs anyway. Your hands could be in prayer pose. If you're in the other squat, it might be that you can fold your rib cage down between your thighs. And then one last time, we're going to come back into standing. So you might want to rock your weight forwards onto the balls of your feet, slide the support out from under your heels, and then start to send your knees down and your sit bones up into a forward bend. Let a breath come in, exhaling, rolling up into standing. Good. So we're going to do a few side bendy movements, side lengthening movements, which will take us from the back of our mat and down through forward bend into dog pose. So come to the back of your mat. I'll be at the back of this mat. Come to the back of your mat. And then the first thing I'd like you to do is come back to these reaching movements where we're rocking our weight from side to side. So like we did sort of towards the beginning of our standing. Good. So as you reach up into one arm, you shift your weight onto that leg and foot. And then from here, we're going to sweep down into a forward bend. And in this forward bend, you can do your weeping willow movements where you're trailing your fingertips around the right foot, around the outside of the left foot. So again, we're sort of lengthening through one side of the body, shortening the other side of the body. Keep the head hanging, really heavy head in this. Good, that's it. That's it. So weeping willow with the arms of the branches of the weeping willow. And then from here, you can pause in the center. We're just going to walk the hands forwards into quite a quiet dog pose. No sort of side lengthening things here, just coming into dog. Not quite the last dog of the evening, but seeing how dog pose feels. 2 or 3 more breaths in dog pose, and then folding down into child. And in child, I'm going to talk you into a side lengthening movement. So settle your hips down over your heels in child pose. And then, yes, so it's quite important in this one, we keep our hips settled over our heels to our best ability. And you're going to keep your right arm reaching forwards and bring your left arm down by your side. And then right arm reaching, right arm by the side of your head, left arm down by the side of your body. Then you're going to start to walk over towards the left with your right arm. So start to go over towards the left. Pick up your head and take it with you, but keep your forehead touching the ground. And don't let your hips come up. And at a certain point when you can't go any further over towards the left, then you just stop and let your right elbow rest on the ground. Yeah, so if your right elbow is off the ground, see if you can settle it down. Because we're really thinking about this lengthening through the side of the body. So we don't need to have the elbow off the ground, that can settle. This is the front arm. So Maria, see if you can let that elbow come down. Yes, that front arm elbow rest down, that's it, good. And just have a couple of breaths there, feeling long through the ribs in the right side of the body and gathered up in the ribs in the left side of the body. And then you can walk back to the center, lengthen both arms forwards when you get to the center. So just sort of back into a normal child pose. See how that feels. And then swap arms. So keep the left arm by the going forwards, bring the right arm down by the side of your body. And now you're going to walk your hand over the left hand over towards the right. Crikey, lefts and rights at this time of the evening, good. And pick up your head, take your head with you, but keep your forehead on the floor. And then when you get as far as you're going to go over towards the right, let the left elbow settle onto the floor. So the movement becomes about the sides of the body. So the shoulder can soften as much as possible. That's lovely. And have a couple of cycles of breath there. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Very nice. And then walking back to the center. Oh, that's very nice. I can see your cat, Rachel, little black cat. So walk back to the center, lengthen both arms out. Just let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. So in that movement, we are moving our shoulders to bring us into a side lengthening movement. Come on to hands and knees now. If you need to lengthen each leg out behind you after being in child pose, you can do, it feels nice. And then we're going to do some of our tail wagging movements, our side bending movements on hands and knees. So to start with these ones, we can just be moving the pelvis. So we can take the pelvis, we imagine we have a tail, we're wagging our tail if we're a dog, we're swishing our tail if we're a fish. We can feel the pelvis moves to the right and to the left. In fact, if we really think about what we're doing, we can feel that the pelvis moves towards the right shoulder and then towards the left shoulder. And then we're going to do the movement using our legs and also add our head in. So let both legs come over, let's say towards the right, and then look along the right side of your body down towards your feet. And then go the other way. So let both legs move over to the left, look down the side of your body towards your feet. And do that a couple more times to each side. So let the legs come over to the side, look down the side of your body. And feel how one side of your body, the side of the ribs, is lengthening, the other ribs are really closing up. So perhaps do that, that's it, once more on each side. And you could also do a little bit of, go quickly with it, do little fishes where you swing your leg. I personally would not then add my head in. That'd make me feel far too dizzy if I'm moving my legs quickly. That's that nice movement of the pelvis coming from side to side. And then sit back over your heels and just give your hands a little shake out, or come into up kneeling. It's terribly dark, and I can't believe how dark it's getting. I have to think it's, that's better. Maybe I just didn't have the light on high enough. I was thinking it's the evening's drawing in. So what we're going to do is just a little bit on a long hands and knees of starting to rock towards face up dog. And then we'll add in a bit of side bending to take us towards face up dog. So first of all, it's just you're in this long hands and knees position. Make sure your hands are under your shoulders, so not as wide as they would be for dog, maybe. And how does it feel to rock your weight forwards, to let the pelvis go? And just really notice how that feels in the lower back. And then what you're going to do is a little bit of traveling forwards and back by swinging your pelvis or moving your pelvis to the right and to the left. So use these tail wagging, these side bending movements to take you back into child pose and forwards into face up dog. And from your next face up dog, you could tuck your toes under and then let your knees come off the floor and then come all the way up into normal dog pose. Normal dog, down dog. Maybe walk your feet in a little bit if it feels too long. Have a couple of breaths in dog and then fold down again into child pose. We'll do a bit more face up dog in a moment, but Just have a little fold down into child pose. Let your wrists down in child pose. Let your hands and your wrists have a bit of a rest. Let the lower back feel nice and long. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And then whenever you're ready, you can come back, if you like, to a little bit more face up dog. So again, we're in this long hands and knees position. I was going to say a bit more tail wagging towards face up dog. If you prefer moving into face up dog by rounding your back, you could do that one. So where we tuck our toes under. Take my t-shirt off again because I just put my head inside it. So tucking your toes under, rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels, and then traveling forwards into face up dog by rounding your back. And then untucking the toes, letting the pelvis come forwards. So however you're moving into face up dog, maybe 2 or 3 times, rocking back, either by rounding your back to go forwards and back, or by tail wagging and side bending. Making this your last face up dog, and then again folding back into child pose for a couple of breaths. A couple of breaths in child pose. And from child pose, we're going to be coming to lie on the belly and do a few movements on the belly. So at this point you might think, oh, fantastic. I know some of you, Rachel, you rather like this. If it's not your... Okay, the cat is now scratching up the scratching up the yoga mats. So lying down onto your belly. And just settle on your belly. You could rest your head on the, if you like, your head on the back of your hands, your forehead, the side of your head. Just be comfortable on your belly to start with. Give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So that, yes, the first thing is settling down on the belly. Wiggling the pelvis if we like, settling down. We could try the one where we bend the knees, we take the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. That's it, and then we tilt the feet to the right and to the left. See how that feels. If your lower back doesn't, that's it. If your lower back doesn't like it, then either bring the feet a bit nearer to the floor. That's it, good. Or don't do it at all. So just see how that feels. Good, and then let your feet settle down. And you're going to organise yourself. So you've got your left arm down by the side of your body, and your right hand is going to come to stand on the floor beneath your right shoulder. So sort of in a pushing position. So your elbow is off the floor. So right hand on the floor beneath your shoulder, left arm on the floor beside you. And so start with your forehead on the floor, if that's possible, Ruth. Do it on the side of your head if that's better. And what I'd like you to do is start to press into that right hand. So your shoulder lifts, that's it, and you let your head roll towards the right. And then you stop pressing and you come back onto your forehead. Or if you've started on the side of your head, Ruth, so if you're starting on the side of your head, be on the left side of your head. So we're just exploring pressing into the right hand. Letting the right shoulder come up. That's it, very nice. Letting ourselves roll on the forehead. So the head turns towards that pressing right hand. Lovely. If anyone's not sure what they're doing, then just ask, as I can't see a lot of you, but I'm assuming you know what you're doing. Good. Why don't you swap sides? So now have the right arm down by the side of your body, And stand your left hand on the floor. So the left hand is standing on the floor, underneath your shoulder, with the elbow off the floor. And you're pressing into that hand. And as you press into your hand, your shoulder lifts. And you roll on your forehead. So your shoulder lifts away from the floor. And you roll on your forehead. So your face turns towards that pressing hand. And then see what it's like to have both hands on the floor. So you're pressing into one hand and then the other. And rolling side to side across your forehead. Very nice. If you're not finding it particularly easy to press into your hands, sometimes having the hands a bit lower down. Sometimes they need to be a bit more lower down than we think. Okay, so you could press into both hands and let the head come off the floor. So it's a little cobra movement, gathering your elbows into your sides. Or for some of you, it might be a bigger cobra movement if you liked this movement. So that's it. So just remember the difference between cobra and face up dog is in this one, your pubic bone stays in contact with the ground. So for most of us, the arms are not going to straighten if we keep the pubic bone, the very sort of bottom front of the pelvis on the floor. So you could try that 2 or 3 times, pressing into the hands, letting the head lift, letting maybe the chest lift, but not overdoing it if your lower back doesn't like that. But again, some of you I know quite like that. Good. That's nice. Lovely. Beautiful. And whenever you've had enough of this, you are going to then lie back onto your belly and then roll onto your back. So trying to disturb yourself as little as possible. Although we are going to be sort of lying down, we're doing some movement and then some breathing. So if you do want to put on something warm, you can. But it's quite nice to just try and roll onto your back without too much fuss. And then see how it feels to lie on your back after being on your belly. So sometimes it's really nice, particularly if you don't like being on your belly. It's just a relief. And let yourself settle. You could bring your hands to the front of your body, feel the movement of your breath in your body. You could also let your head very lazily roll on the floor to the right and to the left. And settling the center of the back of your head on the floor. We're going to do a couple of movements here, nothing too much, and then some breathing. So if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then you're going to bring your hands around the back of your head and interlink your fingers around the back of your head. So what we're going to do is that movement, which is a bit like a little sit-up. So as we exhale, we lift our head, we gather our elbows in, we look between our legs, and we can also tip our pelvis slightly so the tailbone comes off the floor and then come back down again. So what we're trying to feel here is as we exhale and we lift the head, the middle of the back is pressing on the floor. So just do this 3 times. We're not going to do loads of this. 3 times, coming up into this little sort of mini sit-up. So you're trying to feel the middle of the back pressing down onto the floor. Good. When you've done that 3 times, let it go. Release your arms, but keep your knees bent. So let the arms come to settle by your sides. And then 2 or 3 times, you're going to roll up and down into bridge pose and see how that feels. And just that feeling of how does it feel to roll up and down through the spine. So particularly as we come out of it, we can think about placing the vertebrae down one by one. As we go into bridge pose, it might be just sort of seeing where can we go to without pushing it too much. You know, can we start to move into some of those tight places between the shoulder blades in the upper back? So yes, 2 or 3. 3 bridge poses might be nice. And we have one more little abdominally thing, which I find very challenging, but it's probably just me. So when you've done your 3 bridge poses, settle your pelvis back onto the floor. And we're going to work diagonally with this. So you're going to bring your hands back around the back of your head. And we're going to do the same side, repeat the same side a few times. So what you're going to be doing now is as you lift your head, you're going to bring your right elbow towards your left knee and your left knee towards your right elbow. Yeah, so you're going diagonally across. So come up as you exhale, come back down as you breathe in. You could do this 3 times or you could do it 6 times. So it's opposite elbow to knee. Yeah, that's it. And do the same, just keep repeating the same side. Right? Don't go from side to side, repeat the same side. Good. And if it's tolerable to do it 6 times as you exhale, do it 6 times. I think we must nearly be at 6 times. So when you've done it 6 times, just have a little breather before we do the other side. So you might want to release your arms, maybe just let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And then in your own time, you can try the other side. So this time it would be, if you're doing what I said, this time it would be left elbow to right knee and right knee to left elbow. So you're not trying to get the knee and the elbow to touch. It's more about a movement direction. So we're moving in this diagonal way. And it's probably more that you're bringing the knee up and you're bringing the elbow towards the knee. So the twisting really happens in the upper body. The knees just coming up towards your chest. And if it's tolerable, you can do that 3 times on this second side. No, 6 times, sorry. And I promise this is the last energetic thing we'll do. And then when you've finished, you can release your arms. You could let your head roll to the right and to the left. And you can also let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's very nice, good. And then pause in the middle, keep your knees bent and give yourself a hug with your arms. So cross your arms over your chest. Keep your feet on the floor, however. Yeah, so feet on the floor. That's it. Give yourself a hug with your arms. So crossing your arms over your chest. And now you're going to let the knees, the elbows and the head all rock to the right and then all rock to the left. That's it. So you're rocking side to side across the back of your body. Sort of a larger rocking movement now. We keep it comfortable, keep it relaxed, keep it lazy. We're trying to quieten down now. Good. So 2 or 3 more times from side to side. And then we're going to be settling down for some breathing, lying down. So if at this point, if you need a blanket, you want to be cozy, I hate to say socks, jumpers, I don't know. It's a little bit cool this evening. So we're going to be doing a movement with our arm, coordinated with the breathing, and then touching our fingers with our thumb to help us count our breaths. So if you're feeling tired, hopefully hopefully it will be relaxing, but also enough to keep you focused. I found it both when I was doing this earlier. So settle down on your backs. Your knees can be bent or your legs can be long, and have your arms on the floor beside you. And we're going to start with the right arm. And you're going to be rolling your right arm on the floor. So you roll your arm so your palm comes up, and you roll your arm so your palm turns down. And try and do this movement by rolling rather than lifting. So you're keeping as much contact of the arm and the hand on the floor as possible. And as your palm turns up, you're going to breathe in. And as you turn your palm down, you're going to breathe out. So this is just in the right arm. Rolling the arm, when the palm is up, breathe in. Rolling the arm, palms down, breathe out. Carry on with this movement. Breathing in as you turn your palm up. Breathing out as you roll your palm down. Let's have another couple of cycles of breath. Breathing in, palm up. Breathing out, palm down. You're going to finish so your palm is facing up, the back of your hand resting on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then with that same hand, the right hand, you're going to bring your thumb to touch the pad. The pad of the thumb touches the pad of your little finger. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Touch the thumb to the pad of the ring finger. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Touch the thumb to the pad of the middle finger. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Touch your thumb to the pad of the index finger. Letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And go back down through the fingers, so the middle finger, the ring finger, the little finger, in your own time. So having an in breath and an out breath, touching the thumb to the pad of each finger in turn. And when you've had a cycle of breath touching the thumb to the little finger, then let the hand rest however is comfortable. Feel the length of your body in contact with the ground. Feel the weight of your head on the floor. Feel the weight of your heels on the floor. And then come to your left arm, rolling that arm on the floor so you turn the palm up, and then you roll the arm so the palm turns down. Keep movement comfortable. Try to roll the arm as much as possible so you've got this contact, much contact as possible of the arm and the hand and the fingers on the floor. And as the palm turns up, you breathe in. And as the palm turns down, you breathe out. And just in your own time, at your own pace, rolling your arm. As the breath comes in, your palm turns up. As the breath leaves you, your palm turns down. We'll do this for 2 more cycles of breath. One last cycle of breath. Exhaling, the palm turns down. Breathing in, the palm turns up. And leaving the arm and the hand there with the palm turned towards the ceiling. Let the centre of the palm soften. Let the back of the hand settle on the floor. And then you're going to start the same movement we did on the other side, touching the thumb to the pad of the little finger, feeling a breath come in, feeling a breath leave you. Then touching the thumb to the pad of the ring finger, feeling a breath come in, feeling a breath leave. Touching the thumb to the pad of the middle finger, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave. Touching the thumb to the pad of the index finger, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then back down again through the fingers, through the middle finger, the ring finger, the little finger. In your own time, breathing in, breathing out, feeling the contact of the thumb on the pad of each finger in turn. So we finished up touching the thumb to the pad of the little finger. And then we release the hand, and you can keep the arms by your sides, or you could bring your hands onto your belly. And just lie quietly for another half a dozen or so cycles of breath. Letting your body rest on the ground. Feeling the movement of your breath somewhere in your body. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. So just keep lying down for those 3 rings, those 3 sounds. And when we reach the silence at the end of the 3rd sound, then you could start to move. Enjoy this little rest until then. So thank you very much, everyone. It seems to be more and more these days, everyone has to, I'll mute you if I can, but you might have to unmute yourselves. If you want to say anything, if you just want to disappear, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cara.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Stars, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You get to catch a night's sleep.
Oh gosh, yeah, I hope so. I think I went to sleep nearly then, actually.
Did you? Oh, that's great. You're probably, oh no, but you probably didn't want to sleep on the floor. Bye.
See you next
Thanks.
Bye.
week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Love.
Bye.
Bye.
Lovely to see you all.
Oh, hello. Bye. Oh, yes. Hello, Heidi. Hello, Heidi and Lexi. Bye.
Cara, just as I was lying down,
Yes.
a blackbird popped into my patio, and it's right by where I was lying down.
Oh, lovely.
And the blackbird was
it singing?
No.
No. It was just there.
Stuff. Just doing blackbird stuff. And it's really funny, actually, because I've had goldfinches in here.
Oh, how
And
nice.
they've come right down.
Wow. So
And
quite,
robins. And
quite,
Maria
quite
knows my
bold.
patio. It's slightly below.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's got this big honeysuckle, but the birds are coming right into it now, right down.
Oh, that's amazing. How lovely.
It's amazing because they just didn't come down that low before.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, so nice. Oh, that's
Yeah.
really
Been injured with something. Well, oh God, that's not Jude. Sorry, wrong name.
Ruth.
Ruth. Oh goodness, it's.
What?
well, it's like,
What did you say, Emma? You're in the dark.
I know.
lots of people are in the darkest.
Yes.
Yes.
Tune in some way.
Commune with the birds.
Oh, what commune? It did feel quite, just as we were lying down and we were in that tranquil state and this blackbird was hopping around. It really was lovely,
Oh.
actually.
It's so lovely seeing birds, isn't it? They're just so, I just think they, despite everything, isn't it? They just do their own thing.
And it's if you ever come to my flat, it's actually very urban where I live. I live literally, the hospital's literally just up the road, around the corner.
Yeah.
It's very, very urban, and yet the amount of birds that are coming in this quite small patio now, I see a goldfinch in there. It's amazing.
Really lovely.
Mm.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, there you go, Emma. Nature all around us.
Very good indeed.
Oh, look, I was
How
going
are
to
you doing, Emma?
show you Otto here, lying on the lying at his bottom. Actually, where's your head, Otto? Is that your head?
Hello, Otto.
No.
Cute.
You're so sweet.
Is it Isabel? Did she get the dog through you?
Yes, from the same Otto's breeder. Yeah. And then we.
Where are they?
They're not far. They're just up the Godstone. It's like into Surrey.
Oh
just,
yeah, Surrey.
23. Yeah. So.
And is that Isabel that used to come to the class?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, really nice. So they came round and met the dogs, and then they got this dear little
Excellent.
which is so sweet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Another nice lurcher. That's what we like.
Yeah. Oh, you've got a lurcher as well.
I have, yes. He was whimpering earlier on, but I thought, he's on the bed in every room that I'm in, and I heard something or other about all this lockdown business that it's quite good for them to spend some time in a room apart from you. So,
Yes, isn't it? Because I found out with Otto, last weekend I had to go out and leave him a couple of times, and I haven't done that at all.
Exactly, and that's what I'm thinking about Vinny. If I have to start going back to work in the building again, it's beginning to be spoken about, then he'll be really lonely. So he's had me and Maddie, around cuddling him, and beds galore.
Can you take him in with you?
No, not really. No. I don't think so. We did have a woman that had a hearing dog, and she used to bring her dog to work, but I think he's not really the right kind of dog. I don't think he'd really like it.
Enjoy it, probably, would he? He'd probably be
No.
And it is, I felt that with Otto, and I've just started doing couch to 5K with the girls, and I thought that's
nice.
Because very reluctantly, Gemma's saying in the back. I thought it was quite good because it means we have to go out without the dog for sort of, 20 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
And
no, I think it's important. They need to have a little bit of time to themselves. We all need a bit of time to ourselves, even if we don't like it.
Yeah. Well, I'm having too much time to myself, I have to say. Yes, wearing a bit thin now, actually. Can I tell you a very funny story, Kara? This will make you laugh. So I went on a date which didn't end well.
no.
And
recently, a real life.
yeah, recently. And I mean, it did not end well, but it wasn't going anywhere. But anyway, I went to meet this man, and he lives in Kent, and I knew he had a dog. And this is, I hope there's nobody else on here, is there? Before I tell you this.
She's there, but I can't see her.
So anyway, I went to see him. I went to meet him. I'd met him once already because he'd come down to Brighton, and I wasn't quite sure. It was a bit odd, but anyway. And I went. It was Buellwater, and it was absolutely packed out. I mean, it was the worst place you could ever choose. And I saw him standing sort of near the cafe, and I must admit, he looked really. This is really terrible given the work I do and how right on I have to be at work, but he looked like he would really fit in Kent Town, I have to say. So he's quite tall and he's very slim because he's a cyclist, and he's late 50s, I think early 60s, but he's quite young looking, and he had on these like pink sort of denim-y jean fold up shorts sort of thing, and this quite close fitting long sleeve denim shirt outside. He's very musical as well, by the way, and he's quite tall and slim, and at the end of a lead he had this tiny little dog that was a sort of, it was like a cross between a chihuahua, one of those little things you put ribbons in their hair. It was the most unexciting little dog you've ever seen, called Max. And I went, oh, I guess that's Max. And he went, yeah, he's quite dry, this guy. And I went, and it's just this dullest dog. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything exciting. So we went for this walk. It was really bad, actually. And he said, oh, I just need to, nip into the bushes. And I said, oh, don't worry, I'll hold this thing. And he said, oh, he gets very anxious if he's left, separated from me. I said, well, I'm sure he'll cope for 5 minutes, So I held this little dog. And then we went further into this woodlandy area, and this little thing was like completely out of its depth. There was thorns, there was everything. So I just scooped this dog up because I just thought, this is just ridiculous. It's just not made for the countryside. And then in the end, we were out in these fields, and this dog is just, in the end, I said to him, does your dog do anything exciting? And he said, well, what do you want? Do you want it to talk to people? He's quite well spoken, actually. He didn't say it quite like that. Obviously, he's quite well spoken. And I said, well, I just wondered if it did anything naughty or, did anything, made any noise or anything. And he said, no, he doesn't really. No, he doesn't. He said he did get lost once. He got lost down a rabbit hole once. But I was just, anyway, it didn't go very far.
Oh, it wasn't your type, Ruth.
No.
All round, including the dog. It really.
No, it wasn't exciting enough. You needed a bit.
Just didn't.
You wanted a bit of edge, and it wasn't there.
This dog did not do edge.
I think if I turned up to meet someone on a date and they had like a chihuahua, I would, that would.
Well, it wasn't quite a chihuahua, it was a mix.
Yeah, but a little thing, I would be a bit like,
yes.
Terrible,
Well,
isn't
very,
it?
very good friends of mine have always had dogs, and when the last one died, which was a scruffy sort of lurchery cross type, they ended up saying, oh, we've got a new dog, and it's a teacup chihuahua.
Oh my God.
So it's literally about that big.
Oh my God.
It's absolutely tiny.
I mean, what is the point of them? I ask you.
And but Vinny is really quite scared of him. That's the ridiculous thing. And then they've got another one that looks like a miniature, looks like a really tiny sort of version of a collie, a white collie, and it's got this big fluffy tail and everything. And
Really?
Alvin.
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 Yeah,
Oh.
I quite like Alvin. And then the little Chihuahua is called Ted. And of course, they completely rule Vinny whenever we see them. You know,
Ted and
they're like,
Alvin. Ted and Alvin.
Alvin.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a really good name.
They are really fun. And I must admit, I do quite like Alvin now, and I can just about cope with him.
Great name.
Vinny's like, it's so funny, he's so scared of them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I know, he's such an old softie.
But this dog Max, it just didn't even make any sounds.
Ah, no. Well, Ted and Alvin have got a lot of attitude, so that's quite...
Yeah, it wasn't.
Can they take them for a walk?
Pardon?
Can they take them for a walk?
Yeah, amazingly, Alvin runs around all over the place, and Ted gets really lost in the long grass.
But they all
He does get carried quite a lot, but Alvin, he keeps up with Vinny. You know, he goes on really, really long walks, which is
Wow.
amazing,
isn't it?
Always running around, you know, scampering about, sniffing, and you know, checking everything out. So
That's really cool.
I went for a walk up. I go for a walk a lot up by the back of East Brighton Park and up on the race course, and because they've got all these gates there, 'cause there's sheep everywhere actually.
Yeah,
anyway, so I was at one of the gates, and there was these women, and they had about 5 of these little Chihuahua things, and they were going, "Tiger, come here, Tiger." Tiger. And it was this tiny little Chihuahua. It was so funny. They didn't laugh. I mean,
well, they are quite scary.
They're quite feisty, aren't they?
He thinks they're scary.
Really doesn't know what they are, because I remember when one of my sister's boyfriends had a pug, and none of the other dogs really thought it was a dog. Imogen, she had lots of problems. She was very snuffly and very
they do. They have nasal problems.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're terrible because they
have the dogs really. I mean, they weren't scared of her, but they just didn't treat her like a dog. You know.
Sounds like bullying carer going on there.
I reckon they were just
maybe they thought she was a pig.
For a difference, not recognising difference.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah, they need to re-educated. Anyway, look, I better go and get the children to bed.
Bye. Bye. Nice class, thank you. Bye.